Welcome back to part 4 of this series on drawing this Batgirl drawing. Okay, so today I'm going to color. That's what we're going to be talking about. Now that I've actually just put in the tone and I've put in some shadows, I'm going to start applying the color to it. Hi, my name is Luis Escobar. I'm a storyboard artist from the Simpsons television show. I've been working on the show for over 20 years now. And I'm here to empower you. So let's get started on this video. Alright, so now that I've gotten a nap since the last video, I actually was falling asleep in the last video because I was just so tired. Okay, so this is, now I've got some energy. So I'm setting up some layers apparently. This is flats. So this is the layer where I'm just gonna put in all the local colors. So I'm going to decide what color everything is going to be. And you will see that I'm going to put it on an overlay layer, and the reason I'm doing that is because now that I've got the tone and the shadow, once I start coloring things in the overlay layer, they're going to the colors will combine with the colors underneath with these shadow colors that I've got, and they should automatically give us some form, a color gradation that seems to work, and so color picking, and basically just doing paint bucket, and it's nothing too crazy. Nothing. It's referring to another layer. So the flat is referring to the layer above it. So if you look at the layer column on the right, you'll see that there's a little lighthouse. So it's referring to the line layer, and I'm using it, but I'm coloring in a completely different layer. So as you can see, the purple already has a bit of a it already has the tone and the shadow on top of it. This isn't a multiply layer, it's an overlay layer, which means that it's blending the gray with the purple. And at first I had picked the purple I thought was too bright, and so I changed it to a darker purple. So I'm taking a look around to see all the spots that are missing. So the thing about Clip Studio Paint or Manga Studio is that because the line layer is a vector line layer, it's actually painting underneath the line to the actual vector line instead of the visual line that you actually see. There's an actual vector line that makes it together where there's like all the little points. So that's what it's actually painting to, which means that it paints underneath the black, which is very handy. You don't get that weird fuzziness around the line. It actually paints it all the way to where you actually want it to paint. So yellow was not the right color. It needed to be gold looking. So yeah, there you go. The thing that I just did, I actually selected the color because when I recolored, it bled, and I didn't want it to bleed. So now I'm just applying that color to everything that's supposed to be that color. I mean, this is nothing difficult. It's just time consuming. You go in, and not everything is working. You know, not everything works exactly, so you have to manually go in there sometimes and fill in some of the gaps. And I think after these buttons, that's it. So I just color picked the purple again. I saved it. I was taking a good long look to see what the heck I ought to do next, and I guess I decided I was going to go for the face. Trying to find a good flesh tone. I forgot the ear. I think I noticed I forgot the ear. There you go. And the eyebrows are supposed to be red too. I forgot that. So already it's already kind of looking like it's got form without me really needing to do a whole lot. The interesting thing about doing this overlay thing with the gradient, with the tone already down there, and I think what am I doing? I'm looking for, oh, the white of the eyes. The white of the eyes aren't white, so I'm trying to find a good color for the white of the eyes. And I chose this really light pink. White of the eyes will look weird if you actually color them white. They look super saturated, super bright, and that's actually not true. Like our eyes are actually not white, but there's blood there, so it's better to kind of err on the side of a little bit of pink in there. And then the green of the eyes. Oh, that's when I noticed that I needed to color the eyebrows. I had to turn off the tone because I didn't want to get like a grayish version of the color. I wanted just a clean version of the color. So I'm noticing there's like little tiny spots that didn't quite get filled in. Now that I turned off the tone. So I'm going in there and filling in some of these things. And I know that because of the vector line, the way that the vectors work, if I was to turn off the line, you would see some very light gaps in between all these colors because it's coloring to the actual vector line rather than coloring all the way through underneath. It's a very odd thing. I may or may not show it. It's possible that there's a part here where I turn the lights, the line off, and then you'll actually see what I'm talking about. But just take my word for it. That's just the way. So going over some of this area is kind of the best way to go. And with the teeth, I didn't go full white either. I just made it slightly gray. I don't think teeth are extremely white. Filling in any gaps that didn't quite get filled in. So when I zoom, sometimes the computer, the tablet, what it does is it moves the picture because of my wrist or finger or something. I don't know what, but so it flips away from where I want it to be. So again, color picking and just filling in any gaps that I see. Where I see them. But yeah, here's just like a basic looking. I mean, just right there, the way this looks is fine. Like I could have just probably left it like that and called it a day, I guess. But we wanna add a little bit more finesse. Okay, so here is when I start deciding that that hair just doesn't look like hair, like enough like hair to me. So what I started doing was I started experimenting with adding some strands, and I didn't like the way that looked. I think that I decided that it wasn't going to work, and then changed my mind and tried it again later. So here I put the tone back in. I turned on the layer with the tone, and see, it's already got form. It already looks okay. But the problem with this tone is that it's gray. It's not the right. See how now when I put the tone on top, that it takes on a little bit more of the color of this. At least it looks like it takes on the color. But no. So what I ended up doing was I took the tone, I duplicated it, then I locked the layer, and now I'm actually coloring that tone layer a darker version of the skin tone. So what I did was I'm reducing the value of the, so I color picked the skin, I reduced the value, and I increase, and I changed the chroma, the color, a little bit to a little bit warm, a little bit cooler. So I moved the chroma of the color, that pink, that red, and I moved it a little bit closer to blue, and then I reduced the value and now I paint over it so that the darks are a little bit more natural. The colors are a little bit more natural. What the thing about skin is that it doesn't go to brown. It doesn't go to a darker, grayer value. It goes to red because it's translucent, and underneath our skin is blood, and our muscles are red. So when you want to make the skin look a little bit more natural, instead of going to brown and dark brown and more gray and whatever, you kind of want to make it a little bit redder and darker value. You don't want to go, you want to go to a redder value. So here I was experimenting, and I thought that it looked okay, but I eventually changed my mind. I decided that I was going to make the darks in the hair blue, just straight up a blue, like a blue value, because blue is the opposite of orange, and I thought that maybe doing that would make it look more natural. And eventually I decided to just make it a darker, cooler orange instead of making it straight up blue. But up till this point, I keep this blue hue on there. Again, this is still a lock layer. The lock layer, what it does is it makes sure that you don't color anything except what's already been drawn on, or what the value of the stroke. It just colors on top of what you've done on the layer. It leaves the blank alone, and it only colors what you've colored on top of what you've already done. So, and it keeps the gradation too. So I'm using a fill-in mono pen, which is like the most boring, bland, most saturated type of marker pen that that the program has, because I don't need to have it. I don't need any finesse, because the finesse is already in the value that I'm painting on top of. So I just need to make sure that it paints with full intensity on top of all of that. So with the gold, with this gold area, I did exactly the same thing. I color picked the gold. I moved the color picked gold color closer to blue, to a little bit closer, cooling off the color. And then on top of that, I reduced the opacity, moving to the right and down. I mean, I reduced the value on the actual square to the right and down, so that it's also moving. It's not a direct dark. It's not a direct darkening. It's not just adding black. I'm also trying to add temperature. Same with this. Color picked the color. I moved it. I moved the blue closer to cool, even closer to cool. It's already a cool color. I moved it closer to cool, and then I continue on. Now, here's something that I did. I made a bit of a mistake, and this is something that I start fixing as I go. When I do that, when I pick a color, what I tend to do is I create a palette. Because if I don't, what happens is what's happening here, which is I'm color picking an area, but it's not the right color, and now it's not mixing well, and it's like, what color did I use? What was it? And then it starts getting kind of muddy. Do you see how you can see the difference in the color because I didn't? So now I'm trying to find the color that I originally used for this area. Because I changed color, and so usually what I do is I make a palette of the actual color so that this doesn't happen, so I'm not searching for the color I was using. But I think I was rushing through this, and I failed to do that. So it's a much more natural color than just a regular gray. The idea being that you want to have the rule of thumb is if the light area is a warm color, then the shadow area, as it gets to dark, is going to be a cool color. And if the light area is a cool color, then as it goes into shadow, it's going to be warm. So even in blues, which tend to be which tend to be cool colors, there are cool blues and there are warm blues, and the only way to tell the difference is by comparing both. And one usually seems a little bit closer to yellowish blue, and the other one just seems closer to just darker bluer blue. It's just like a bluer blue. So with this purple, the light purple, as it gets closer to the light, is got a little bit more red, a little bit more, in the direction of yellow, while the darker areas are moving a little bit closer to dark blue. So I color pick the lips. See, I'm moving it closer to. I'm moving it up, which is actually the wrong direction. I should be moving it down. I'm moving it closer to red. I probably should have been moving it closer to blue. Green. I move it down. See, I'm moving it closer to blue. And further down in value on the color wheel there, on the color block. And I do the same with the eyes. I actually go and make it grayer red, to indicate that there's blood, that you can see blood in the eyes. Like eyes tend to have, when they're not bloodshot, there's still a little bit of red there because of the blood. And again, because I didn't color pick, or I didn't make a palette color. I had just directly color picking off of a color, off of a dark area is not, wasn't quite giving me the right blend. So now we've got overall a much better up there, because I color picked the wrong. I didn't make myself a palette color. I'm not quite getting. See, it's just. So you'll eventually see me just start making a palette, so this doesn't, trial and error thing doesn't happen anymore. So you could actually see that it's all starting to come together little by little. The drawing, and again, looking for the right, the original color that I was using, and it's getting frustrating. And I actually decide that I kind of like it a little bit redder, just a little bit, until I hit a different spot where it's too much, and then I try to reduce what I had originally done, and now I've made a mess, and I'm trying to find a good yellow again, because I didn't make myself a palette. So she's looking pretty decent. There will become a point where I'm going to start adding the lighter areas. But I start adding the lighter area wrong. So I will explain myself, and I will show you why it was wrong. In fact, it's going to be the only place in all of this video series where I speed up the process, because I don't want to waste your time, because I wasted my own time. But I will explain what I did wrong, and I will show it to you. And I just, because it became a about a 20-minute to a 30-minute tangent that I eventually didn't even use. I ended up tossing all that work away, so I ended up spending like 30 minutes doing something that was dumb. And again, I'm just trying to fill in all the gaps, and it's because I didn't create a palette. I'm always trying to, I'm searching for the color again that everything is supposed to be, and it's actually quite frustrating. So we got little gaps of blue kind of peeking out there. So right on the edge. So I'm trying to get rid of it. It's looking pretty decent. Finding I'm looking for areas that need that where I went over with the wrong color, or it looks sloppy or something. So here, I realized that the flat layer needs to be filled. And I don't think I got the buttons. I'll eventually get to them, but I think I missed the buttons. And I'm looking for a colored pencil for some reason. What am I making now? Oh, the light area. So this is where I start trying to make the light area. And this is where I'm going to explain how I screwed up. So the thought behind this was that when an object is hit by light, the local color, the actual color that something is hit by that light, and takes in the area where it's the brightest, takes on the color of that light. So, for example, the hottest part, the brightest part, the part that is hit the hardest with, say, if you had an object like this mouse, and the light was red, the highlight would have been red, and then from that highlight it would spread out, it would still be red, and then it would dissipate and kind of blend in with the local color. And you can see it with this mouse, how the light just kind of is hitting, and it's bright. There it is. It's brightest here, and then it slowly goes and turns into the local color, the black. If this color, the light happens to be kind of yellowish. No, it's about white, bluish. I don't know. It's a fluorescent light, so it's probably like blue light. And so, but if it was red, it would have been red. If it's green, it would have been green. So I'm thinking in my head, okay, it's going to be yellow, so the brightest area is going to be yellow. But I usually don't. I'm not usually doing something that dumb. Oh, I'm doing something else here. So in the video here. So what I've done here is I duplicated I selected the shadow area, the tone of the shadow area, and then I inverted the color. I mean, I selected the shadow area. Then I made a mask on a completely new layer of that shadow area. And then I created a selection layer tool, a layer adjustment tool, hue saturation layer adjustment. And now what I'm doing is I'm putting the mask. I turned off the shadow. And now I'm just playing with the mask. And what I'm doing here with the mask, which is in the shape of the shadow, is I'm reducing the brightness, which makes it a shadow area. I'm reducing the saturation so that it's grayer, so it's not as bright, so it's closer to gray. And then the hue, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to find a cool color that complements all the colors of the drawing. So I'm trying to find the right balance to not make it so dark, make it just dark enough so that I like it. Not so gray so that there's still some type of tone, some kind of hue. And I'm trying to find the right temperature with the hue. So going back to the saturation, how I'm going to go full on saturation so I could at least see what hue the shadow was going to be. So right now it's an orange. It's like it's too orangey here. It's too red. I think it's like a bit of a red shadow here. So I think I'm trying to get it to be. I want it to be a little bit more blue, but it's not turning the way I want. So I'm just experimenting and looking around, seeing what. seems the most natural, what feels the best. And around there in this area, it seems to me like it's working the best, but it's way too saturated. The colors are too saturated. I eventually, I think, reduce the saturation of these colors. Oh, and this is when I screw up. Okay, so this is actually where I speed up the video. So again, the logic being, it's going to be a yellow light, so it's going to be the where it's the light is hitting the most. It's going to be yellow. The problem is that it looks terrible, and I didn't know why it was looking terrible. And this took a good 30 minutes just doing this to everything. And the reason why it looks terrible is because what I didn't do was just do a regular lighter version of the color underneath and then save this yellow bit for last. Because if, again, going back to this example, it's still a gray here, so I needed to put this gray here instead of going straight to this direct light color. So, and I tried really hard. See, I even tried to put in some light blue in there, but I'm doing it in the wrong order. So I decided, and I'll do this in the next video, that when I'm going to put in the light area, I'm going to just take the blue, the purple, lighten it up, and then do a pass on top of that with a light purple. And then at the very end, put in the yellow. But here I'm doing it backwards. Also, usually what I do is I tend to do this in the black and white. I add a light tone layer. So I do the shadow layer, the ambient light layer, and then I do a light layer where the light is actually hitting and dissipating throughout. I usually do that. I decided to skip it and just do it in the color phase, and this is where I failed. So yeah, this would have taken a good 30 minutes just watching me do this, and I eventually just get rid of this entire layer. Just go, this is a complete failure. I'm doing this the wrong way, and I course correct in the next video. And that's the video. So yeah, so next video I'm gonna course correct what I just did. It was a big mess. When I was doing it, I was just drawing, and it was just like, what's going on? I don't get it. Why isn't it working? It's just like, what if I do this? What if I do this? And then you know, I turned off the video. I just sat there and I went, I'm an idiot. I should have just do a lighter layer of the color and then just slowly transition into the light. And yeah, I'm a big dope. So you'll see the correct way of doing that in the next video. But I hope this has been helpful. I hope you saw what I did. And yeah, because I kind of skipped over that adjustment layer thing. And you're going to see me playing around with it some more, because I don't think I got the shadow the right... I don't think I got the right hue for the shadow, and so I'm going to keep messing around with it. And that's the benefit of doing a mask, is by creating a mask and messing around with the layer levels, the adjustment layer, making an adjustment layer from that mask, based off of the original shadow shape that you created, makes it so that you can play around with the shadows and find a good balance for the colors of the shadows in your drawing. So yeah, again, thank you for watching. If you found this video helpful, I encourage you to go over to my Patreon, where you can support me doing more of these videos. There you will actually get these videos ahead of time before everybody else. On top of that, I do coaching there if you want to take me up on coaching, but even if you don't, you still get free downloads of artwork that I do, high-res JPEGs of work, PSD files of work. There is about 3 or 4 years worth of downloads now, that the moment that you join, you have complete access to it, and you can start downloading it anytime you want. But there's a lot of downloads now, like years and years and years of downloads. So thank you so much, and I'll see you next time. All right, bye.